G'day and welcome to another episode of SidekickTV. Today I'm joined by Gus from Queenstown IT and we're going to be talking about cybersecurity and how to be aware of the threats and what the risks are of running your business in an online world these days. So Gus, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Rick, for having me over here. I watch your programs all the time, so I have to say I really enjoy watching them, and today I'm sitting on the hot seat, I have to say.
Cool. No, look, it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much.
Look, Gus, cybersecurity is one of those things that people, I think 9 times out of 10 people would put their hand up to say they know nothing about this, right? So,
that's great, yeah.
Where do the main risks come from when it comes to cybersecurity?
I think the first thing we need to do is identify the actors, who are these people or organizations and doing this type of act onto businesses. There's a whole bunch of them, we're talking nation states, so we're talking government sometimes, obviously for several reasons, to try to cripple someone else's financial system, another government's financial system, or armies, or anything on those lines. We have corporate spies, obviously, people that want to know what you're up to and what are your IPs, your intellectual property, what systems you're using, who your providers are, things like that, to get some financial gain, or advantage, over you as a competition. Then you go criminal groups, and these guys are straight financial gains. They very well set up in a way. They have they got a CEO on top, they got a help desk, they got professional negotiators, the whole shebang basically, and 24/7 operation. This it's pretty crazy. And then you move on to malicious insiders. So you got people that really just want to do bad, they want to do it in a way to
just want to watch the world burn,
pretty much. So in a way, then you got hackers as well. So hackers are normally some of them like to brag about how good they are and how easy it was to get into compromise someone else's systems, or whatever. And then you got terrorists, obviously, and those are a little bit more serious. It's and their game there is really try to harm, and create terror, obviously, for either nations or corporate or anything else, So, and finally you go hacktivists. So these guys say, it's funny because activists, hacktivists. So these are hackers that are activists, basically, in simple words. Financial gain is not a big thing for them. It's more like I would call it an idealism, if that's the right word. So basically something they believe purely on, and they really want to just get it out. And they go after organizations that are non-for-profit sometimes, and you go to the different types. So these are basically the people we need to look out for, obviously depending on the type of business you're in, you'll be looking at a different type of person or entity trying to target you. So yeah, that's
this is all pretty close to home for me at the minute. I'm currently in Facebook jail from a post that went up that a couple of friends screenshotted and sent it to me, and before I knew it, I'm just kicked out of Facebook.
Exactly. They go watchdogs there. There's the systems. Some of them are AI. Some of them are real people. That are looking. Obviously, there's so many posts that they can be overstruck, but the technology is there. They're using AI, and it's crazy. So yeah.
So if you did see that Islamic militia that I shared, it wasn't actually me sharing it. So yeah. So clearly there are lots of areas online and lots of groups out there that are potentially pretty dangerous to our businesses, big and small. But what would you say are the biggest cybersecurity threats to Kiwi business?
To Kiwi businesses, I will say so banking wire fraud, so and also ransomware. That would be maybe the two most common things that we're seeing in the New Zealand market. Although there's probably around 10 areas of cybersecurity threats that you should be aware of. Malware, phishing, spear phishing, man in the middle attack. We can go through a lot of the stuff on it. Potentially we can help share something with you that we can post and whatnot. But today maybe we will focus on the two biggest that are affecting New Zealand. So the wire bank fraud is basically when a malicious email comes on to say your mailbox. It comes from an account it comes in a way that is asking you to get or release some account information or passwords or whatever else. It looks legit. It might be very well hidden in terms of how the email got sent. So it could be your name might be spelled wrong, the company name might be spelled wrong, something on those lines, but they're trying to impersonate, the business that you represent. And this is like, can you please set up a payment, for X amount, and you willingly just go and do it without, asking many questions. And then obviously the account is for someone else, it's not actually the intended person that needs to have it. So that's sort of like that wire fraud, so it happens in the banking. And then ransomware is a little bit more serious. I will say ransomware is when obviously a file is encrypted, and that renders basically the file unusable. You can't use it in any way. And there is a ransom that needs to be paid to be able to unlock it. And we're seeing that being a common cause, of many of the attacks that we see today on our own clients. Some of them, so it's
the first one around the wire transfer and asking asking for money. It's I haven't seen many of these, but I definitely know that they exist. A business partner of mine was doing a DIY project at home, and knew the person that he was buying this material for, and got a really well written, eloquent email saying, be aware of the change of bank details, rah, rah, rah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
If it wasn't for my business partner going, I know that guy, there is no way he would be that polite. He was like, this is dodgy. And you're asking me to do something potentially dodgy, which is pay into a different bank account. So I sent it back. This guy had no idea he'd been hacked, had no idea that his clients were being emailed. But how common is this threat right now?
It's happening a lot, and also it comes from, as I said, different sources. So it's either by email. Sometimes you might even get in a larger corporation, you might get a phone call and it says, calling from accounts. Although it's not the right, it's not the right person being impersonated at the time, and so it's becoming quite common now. It's one of the highest threats in the corporate world now, in the business world. So.
Are Kiwis generally quite trusting as well of these things? Because I know that growing up in the UK and for yourself, growing up in South America. We are potentially a little less trusting of every other citizen that we're with. So I've found that I'd usually push back if it doesn't feel right, but then chatting to a lot of people, it may seem more legitimate to them.
That is exactly right, and that happens sometimes, and that's how we see, situations in which, payments are made, unfortunately. It's becoming more common than ever that now people are starting to realize things by looking, like you said, for example, your friend, he realized how the email was written or whatever, how it was written to realize that, maybe this is not quite right, but sometimes if it's written properly and you think it looks okay, feels okay or whatever, you just go ahead and do it, so, but it's, so just be aware sometimes and have a second read, so.
Think about, would this person send me this?
Exactly.
Okay. And when it comes to ransomware, I mean, I know nothing of this really. So what's the threat typically with that?
So normally the way that it works is a ransomware attack will come in the form of an email as well with a link. You click on the link that potentially can download some malicious software on your computer device, and that triggers several actions that sometimes are very well hidden. I mean, these are people that are very trained in their field. They're very good at it, so they're, the idea is that you don't notice that something is happening. They even calculate your time difference, so if you're in New Zealand and they're in, say, somewhere else in Europe or whatever, they know your time difference, so they'll trigger the attack while you're asleep, so you don't realize that it's happening. And basically from there, it's just game over, really. I mean, they inject different codes, different things to the files, and then they're unusable after that, And these are even, let's just don't think about the files that live on your machine. Even if you go say the lines of OneDrive or Dropbox or, Google, OneDrive, Dropbox or Google or 365 or whatever, basically those also will be affected. It's just, so it's
So people can be shut out of, you think, oh, we're safe, most of the stuff's on the cloud. You can be just shut out.
100%, yeah. Cloud doesn't mean safe. I want to make that very clear. Cloud is just a tool, it's someone else's IT closet, if you want to call it, not your own. They're in the small writing on the contract, it says, they make sure it's fireproof, earthquake-proof, that is online 24/7, that is replicated in different areas. But to recover the data, and stuff like that, it's definitely not part of what they do. Mm-hmm. And these hackers doing this ransomware, they got trained negotiators. It's pretty scary, And normally the ransom is paid in cryptocurrencies, so you lose track as to it's completely anonymous. So even if you go ahead and send the ransom, you pay the ransom to someone, there's no guarantee you will ever get it back. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, you say I'll pay you, well, but you never know, So
And so, for myself as a business owner, why should I be worried about this?
Well, think about how many companies are embracing digital transformation, cloud solutions, software, and different solutions that allow them to work better, in some ways, work remotely, if you want to call it, if you want to work remotely. Obviously, downtime, it's the biggest thing. If your companies rely on information, that is stored in, different applications, or platforms, call it cloud, call it software as a service, call it anything as a service. The question you need to be asking is, how long can my business survive if all that data is gone? Do you have quotes? Do you have pricing? Do you have sensitive information? Do you have things that without it, your business can't survive? And if that's the case, then think about downtime. How long will it take you to recover? Say ransomware. If you don't pay the ransom, your data is gone, and it's just simple as that. I mean, there's no other things, and that can cripple a business and bring it to its knees. And basically just fully make it disappear. In simple way. I'm not want to scare anyone here, but it's reality. I mean. And this is becoming a thing that is it's not new. This has been for many years. It's just ramping up due to COVID-19, due to other things.
And so those trained negotiators will know to get as much money as you can possibly pay to potentially survive. To survive, exactly right.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, we use tools. We use calculators. We have calculators that allow us to, for example, say how much data you got in the cloud. How long can you survive without your data for? So you say 3-4 days, what that implies, how many employees do you have? And we can actually do a cost calculation, and it's scary figures that we show some clients sometimes, it's like, oh my God, this is a ransomware attack cost. And we're talking on the thousands, I mean, if you think that you can trade, you can sell, you can do anything, you can communicate or whatever, you have to bring external, maybe your own IT department or whoever else, to try to fix it, you're looking at a lengthy downtime and a very costly recovery here.
So what are just a couple of things that a Kiwi business owner can do now to help them, reduce the risk or reduce the pain?
Yes. So what we've done is last year after the DHP. I don't know if you remember when the DHP happened last year, and you probably the audience also remember. We look at our friends over the ditch in Australia, and we look at what they do and what New Zealand also doing with the cybersecurity. There's good pages and websites that you can go and get some information. And we came out with what we call the Essential 8. So 8 things you can do to basically prevent, and mitigate any cyber risks, onto your organization. So I'm going to name them all. I'm not going to go through everything, but probably so first is application control. So which apps are allowed on your systems? Sometimes you say you go Google Workspace, that's got a marketplace, and you can download apps, make sure the apps are trusted. On Google Chrome, you can add little plugins and different things. Same thing, make sure you know what they are, So,
right, because I would have thought that anything I can install on Google Chrome, has been vetted. It's safe.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I've learned something today.
Patch your applications. So that means, in simple words, just make sure programs move. They evolve. Technology evolves very rapidly, as you all know. And it's just make sure your computers are up to date. Windows updates. The same with software updates on a Mac. If you're using a Mac or anything like that, then there's macro settings on both Google Workspace, which is in your case, and Microsoft 365. So this is kind of like the global settings for the organization control. Emails, storage, everything else. Make sure that those are being set accordingly, and know who has access to it. You might be the business owner, you might be the administrator globally or whatever. Make sure that it's no one else there, and if there is, that you know who they are, Obviously. So then restrict some of the privileges that people have, around granting permissions and administrative rights, if you know what I mean. And then a multi-factor authentication, a very important one, guys. If you got emails, please have a second way of verifying that it's you who's trying to log in. That might be by an authenticator app. There's plenty, on there's the Microsoft Authenticator. There's the Authy app that you can use. There's also a text message that allows you to also have a second layer of protection. So if you try to log in, you put your password. The next thing you get a text message with a different code, and that allows you in to the to your emails. So that will be a very important one. And backups. Please, people, back up. It's sometimes we think, because, as you said earlier, if I'm on 365, I'm on Google Drive, I'm safe, my data's on the cloud. No, it's there's more to it, and maybe consult with your local IT team or whoever you use to look after your technology, and make sure you got a what we call a BCDR, so a business continuity disaster recovery. So you can overcome, whatever threat that you might get, in a quickly and a timely manner, So so
great. Yeah,
hopefully
perfect.
that makes sense. Or
No, that's excellent. And you said as well that resource that you've got, that tick list or checklist, we can share that.
100%.
Yeah, perfect.
Exactly,
so we'll put that in the comments. That's it. That's quite a scary run through of what can go on in your, with your IT. I'm glad that we got a number of those things sorted out with you last year, just so I can sleep a bit better. But look, guys, hopefully you really enjoyed this video. Hopefully you can sleep tonight after watching it. But great to kind of shine a light on what some of the risks are in your business that, honestly, for me, so many of these things are just invisible. So it's great to actually see them now. Thank you so much for this,
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very happy.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thanks.
See you guys.